But Paulie, I said, look, Paulie offered me 1/3 of what they're going to pay me, and I'll stay. But he didn't have enough money to do that, so I had to go. I mean, it would have been retarded to stay. And I think Paulie was honestly, I think he was starting to burn out. And even though ECW finally started making money at that point, you know, and drawing bigger houses, and if you really look at the big picture, it was kind of over. That was kind of like, it's kind of weird that they ended up making more money for the next 2 years than they made the first 3 years, you know, except that it was kind of like we got into this peak, and then it was just a matter of just going, you know, so it was just a matter of time before it collapsed.
Yeah. How was your relationship with Paulie at the end, around the barely legal period?
It was strained. It was strained, I think.
What do you think strained it?
He hated the fact that I was leaving. I was like, Paulie, just give me some money, I'll stay. And he couldn't do that. So, I mean, it was fucked up. It's Paulie being Paulie, you know?
Yeah. Was there any problem with bounce checks around that time? Or
No, I didn't get, he paid me all the time there. I stopped getting money, though, the second time I came in. Yeah, he still owes me 78 grand. I think the check's in the mail, though.
Did, like, so going into Barely Legal, you had a pretty good idea that that was going to be it for you with this company.
Yeah, well, no, I know it was over. I know, I think I already given my notice or something, I think, because I knew I was dropping the belt to Funk. No, maybe not, I don't know. It's kind of vague.
Yeah. The Terry Funk match, it ended up only being like a very short match because of...
that was another big thing that pissed me off, too, was once again, like, you know, like, remember I told you before how Lindette and the Grappler would always put himself on top of me, even though I was the main event? Somehow, okay, if you ask Paulie, Paulie goes, hey, it was all Taz. But all the posters said it was Sabu Taz. And that's what the pay-per-view was built around, but it wasn't. The pay-per-view was built around Funk winning the world title for 20 years later or something, wasn't it? 20 years later, historical re-winning the world title, you know, world champion again. And that's what all the TV was driven to. As much as Sabu and Taz, I mean, at the very least, it was co-main events. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If I wasn't the main event on top of him, he wasn't the main event on top of me. But now, you wouldn't know about the posters. And that pissed me off that I worked my ass off for that thing, and finally now I've hit the pay-per-view, and I'm not even on the fucking poster. And it's all this Sabu and Taz, like, they drew it. And I was like, fuck that, that's bullshit. And fucking I was hot about that. And Paulie goes, that's all Taz. He goes, I gave Taz the go-ahead to make the posters and stuff, because Taz did take care of a lot of that stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what Taz put on there. You know, I went to Taz, and Taz is like, that's what Paulie told me to do. So, I mean, the truth is somewhere in the middle, you know? But that really bothered me only for the fact that, not that I wasn't on the poster per se, because I didn't care about that, but I thought it was a slight that I put my heart and soul into this thing, and now that we're going to finally reap some benefit, and you're going to fucking go, hey, you know what? Yeah, it really wasn't you. You know what I mean? When it was. I mean, me and Dreamer carried the first year and a half of television, and me and Sandman carried the next year. And all the other stuff, as cool as it was, did not, I mean, it was the episodic storyline that people tuned in to see. Just like we were talking about earlier, as much as you want to, you know, as much as I think Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero have phenomenal matches, I just read a thing when they were talking about how segment-wise, their segments do the worst, you know, and they have the best matches. Whereas the Big Show is one of the top segment getters because, and his matches aren't very good, but because of the storyline that he's in. People are always going to tune in for the storyline. You got to have good matches too, but they're tuning in for the stories, you know? And Sabu and Taz really wasn't much of a story. If I recall, it was kind of a one-note thing, wasn't it?
There was a lot of pull-aparts that they just...
But there was no depth to it. It was just they never faced each other, wasn't it? Or something like that?
It was Sabu walked out on Taz in the three-way,
right.
And Will showed that show, and then they built off.
Yeah, there wasn't. Yeah, but all they did then was pull aparts and stuff, and they devoted a lot of time to it. But they have the depth we did, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
When would you say you said your relationship was strained at the end? When would you say it first started getting really strained with Paulie?
I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time, and Paulie's. I don't know. I mean, me and Paulie always had a weird relationship. It was always a love-hate thing. You know, I drove him nuts. And he drove me nuts. But I mean, I think we genuinely loved each other, you know what I mean? But we drove each other nuts. I mean, it was just, we had clashing personalities, but when it came for the Raven character in ECW, all that fell aside, and it was, boom, we're right on the same page. But, you know, we always had conflicting personalities, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you and Paulie, you guys always say the same thing. If I ask you about Paulie, you always say, well, it'll take forever to explain. And if I ask Paulie, like I did last night about you, he goes, it'll take him forever to explain our relationship. Yeah. Is there any way that
Did they say anything else?
No, that was it. Is there any way that you can sum up, like, I mean, that's pretty much what he said. I go, you know, how would you describe your relationship with Scotty? And he goes, well, it'll take forever to explain.
I'd like to hear that. I mean, if you find out, let me know. I'd really like to hear what he said.
All right, well, I mean, that was the end of it. The same answer.
Okay, next time drag him out of it. But I'll tell you exactly what it was. We had, well, I mean, there was a lot of love between us. I mean, we both, our passion for the business was the overriding thing, you know what I mean? And our passion for the Raven character, and our passion for telling stories. And just the fact that what we were able to create and what we did, I mean, how could you not care deeply for someone when you're working on this kind of creation with them? You know, something new, something different, something revolutionary, you know what I mean? And having that kind of influence. By the same token, I've always been obnoxious. Paulie's been eccentric, you know, and those things kind of do this too, you know, so. But I still love the man, you know what I mean? And our relationship's really strained now, but that's because of him, because it just strikes me that he's watched that part of us passed away, which is cool, you know what I mean? But I still miss, like, I still miss having the conversations we had, you know? And I've tried to rekindle the friendship, you know, on a lesser level, obviously, because it'll never be that again, because it doesn't have that kind of intensity, because we weren't working together. But that's just not where he's at right now, which is cool, you know?
Yeah, do you think there's any chance in the future that he'll pick up the phone and talk to you and you have one of those conversations again?
Maybe. I think there's a better chance of it happening if all of a sudden WWE realizes that they need me. You know, I'm not saying they do need me, but I'm saying, but if that happened, or if TNA breaks out and gets big, you know, and I become a player again, you know, and let's rephrase it. If TNA breaks out and I become a player again, then they'll be interested. Then maybe yes. Or if TNA breaks out, we're just smart enough to hire Paulie away. You know what I mean?
Now, going back to you having the big influence on the ECW locker room, you used to conduct those classes in the back. Can you just tell the people a little bit about the classes and what you used to do? It's when we used to sit by the video monitor and explain. And
I would explain why something was the shits or why it wasn't, you know, and why something worked and why it didn't. You know, I mean, we used, was it? I remember in the ring, I actually talked to Dudley's at a cell one day. Like, they'll tell you that. Like, I actually had a selling class where I'd sit in the ring and I get in the ring and I teach them how to sell. I just keep beating them up until they got it right. But they were like the best students I ever had. Within like 3 hours, they totally went from guys that couldn't sell shit to selling motherfuckers. They're phenomenal, you know? I mean, some people can learn, some people can't.
who did you find, like, didn't listen to you or just didn't have the ability to learn?
I don't know. I don't remember the classes in the back, though.
He used to watch UWF tapes. The 1 hour TV where all the
Oh,
titles
really?
changed. Yeah.
Was that?
The 1 hour TV where all the titles changed.
Oh, yeah, UWF was like the best TV show prior to ECW. And no cat fighting in the back, girls. UWF was like the best TV show prior to Paulie's. Actually, Portland was a damn good show, too, but UWF was like the best before Paulie's. And so I'd have tapes, and I would just explain to the boys why this worked, why that didn't work, you know, and explain storylines. And I mean, I would just teach, you know. I enjoy teaching.
What did you think?
I think on two levels, though. I think one, because I like helping people, and I'm sure two, on another level, you know, it feeds my ego that I actually have knowledge that I'm teaching to somebody else, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it works on two levels.
What did you think of Shane Douglas and your feud with him?
What feud?
A couple matches you guys had.
We didn't have a feud, did we?
Yeah, no, you guys had a little program together. There wasn't any
Small program.
Yeah, there wasn't any huge angles. You did a lot of old school.
I had the best thing about that, I remember.
Didn't you have Kimona?
Yeah, he had Kimona. The best thing about it was that Kimona deserted me on TV for him, but the way it happened was I didn't know she deserted me. So Shane cuts his promo, steps out of the way, or she steps, and she's like, you can't see her because she's hidden behind him, and she steps around in front of him, and there she is, right? And she says, something or other. And so Shane, and Gabe's already laughing, he remembers it. So Shane cuts like this 3-minute promo that's really strong, right? And all she has to say is one line, like, I told you, Raven, or something. And Paulie wants you to point at her eye, because Paulie's real big about, like, hitting you in the head with a hammer. Like, here's my point, let me hit you in the head with a hammer with it. And so it really made it really silly. But she couldn't even spit the one line out. She's like,